So finally, I realized that the Greek gods were not immortal, or they would be here today. The Greek gods were men, were mortal men who had more information than the slave class, and they constructed society to have the Illuminati and those that were not the Illuminati, the enlightened ones. The enlightened ones are people who had more knowledge than the average Joe. That's all the Greek gods were. And so then you had the demigods, which were basically all the Greek gods because they were giving people life and also taking away life from people. And even all of the even what we say the original gods, they were all mortal, and God equals mortal, because those that came down even in the original Sumerian pantheon, they were mortal. Yes, they understood the power of sugar and salt. Maybe they lived longer than the average Joe, but they weren't any more special than anyone else out there if you were given all the information. Like I knew, when someone says, oh, you couldn't qualify to get into Berkeley, right? If I had the family, the support system, the financial resources, the predispositions, the genetic makeup, I could have gotten into Berkeley. If I had all the right chemistry and background, I could have gotten into Berkeley. Okay? But since our society is built on not a level playing field, then yeah, you could say, well, you don't have the capacity to do what I'm doing. And so then you have put yourself in a godlike status. And so that's what then gave people the idea that Zeus was immortal. I mean, you can say that there's gods of the sun and gods of the stars and gods of the sea. And chemistry is all about messing with the chemistry of the environment to then create storms and create droughts. And so we're realizing that really it's physics that is behind what we think supports the whole God mentality. Because you understand alchemy doesn't make you a god. It just means that you had more knowledge. You understood how to put two and two together. Okay? Because you knew how to make processed food and you had the machinery to do it doesn't make you a god. It means you had access to certain resources to be able to produce something like processed food. Okay? So if we're seeing climate change, I'm sure that there could be cycles in the universe, or there's people manipulating different elements in the weather. Okay, whatever, you just deal with it, go with the flow, adapt, move around, be a little bit nomadic if you have to figure out where the best place is to be. But I would say this, that yeah, so I'm gonna be rewriting a lot of stuff, now that I figured it out. But the Greek gods were not immortal. Yeah, they were a story. It is kind of like Greek mythology, but really it's Greek history, because it's mortal men saying that something is immortal. It's mortal men creating a story. Mortal men that had more knowledge. And then they were able to pass on these stories, these fairy tales, to then the slave class who ate it up, who still eats it up. Okay? And so, yeah, those that wrote the Bible, they understood how to use words. They understood word chemistry. Anyone that writes a story where you're just like, oh my God, I believe it, anyone that has the power to write, just look at even the journalists that said that I killed somebody, right? They had the power of the pen and the words to manipulate people who don't know any better. So those that believe the journalists that I hurt somebody with salt is no different than when someone writes the Bible and says that this person is more special than that person. And so when you already have evidence to show how easy it is to manipulate a large groups of people, such as people in the Catholic religion, the Christian religion, then how easy is it to then use journalism and mainstream media to shape perceptions about anything you want? That's the construction of the fairy tale. That's the construction of the matrix. Once you realize that's what it is, that we are living in a virtual reality. Okay, I mean, when you watch like Fox and CNN, these are all bots, BOTSs, robots, that were programmed to spew out a very specific thought process. And when that thought process isn't viable anymore, then they're told to say something different. And every single time they want to change people's perceptions about a person, place, or thing, they'll go and modify their script. It's not that difficult to go and add and replace ingredients. And that could be words, that could be elements in a packaged food, that could be, anything in society. You add an ingredient and you take away an ingredient, you'll change the chemical makeup of a person, place, or thing. And you, as a human who is divine, must understand that, yes, ingredients are being added to you, and they're being taken away, and they're being added, and you must adapt. And you got to stop resisting. And so this understanding about the gods is really the crux of it all. The gods were mortal. They were not immortal. No god was ever immortal out there. Immortality is something that you don't even know until like years later, when you're like, wow, I just surpassed my own limitation if I lived to past 100. Give me another 100 years, myself and my community. And it's just a continuous thing. It's not something you really can project. And so it's such a weird thing. I wish there's other ways I could say this, but I'm learning how to speak about this. So anyways, immortality is really a theoretical concept that is an ongoing evolutionary concept. And it does mean different things to different people in different times and what they thought immortality was based upon the time. And so back in antiquity, when they said the gods were immortal, they were all mortal. And if you said that they were immortal, then they weren't really, were they really gods, or were they just a name of a chemistry like lightning? A name of chemistry like oxytocin, the fertility goddess. Oxytocin. Then you have the adrenaline, which is the war god, the same thing. And so it becomes rather complicated when politics, religion, and science are fused together, but then they act like they're separate when they're not. Politics, religion, and science are all fused together, and the words are what separates people in politics, religion, and science. And it's rather amazing when you finally figure out what's behind it all. And that's why we're in this great reset. You gotta really hand it to the luminaries out there. They know what they're doing, and now you know what they're doing too. And so you now can adapt to it and rise above the binary driven arguments that are made to debate, annihilate, and exploit, and create little demigods who will take away and give life and take it away just as fast as they can. And you see those in the influencers world, YouTube, Facebook, social media, the media, and you see those entrenched in their religions. And no matter how much they justify how their religion is so much different, it's all the same shit. Different day. All right, bye.